I feel that it is only proper for me to first advise you that in this video depicting the contents of my book, Fate Digest for Women Baby Boomers, I will be discussing violent acts committed upon elderly victims. Therefore, you may want to reconsider viewing this video. Now for those of you that remain. Imagine, if you will, in Madison County, Florida, a 75-year-old man standing in his home during a home invasion robbery. Now picture the perpetrator pointing a shotgun in the old man's face and then pulling the trigger. Furthermore, consider in Pasco County, Florida, the operator of a small bakery shop planning a home invasion robbery in order to steal a diamond ring from the frail finger of a 78-year-old female shopper whom he had observed over a 2-year period of time on a regular basis wearing that ring. The baker's plan was to pay someone from his old Chicago neighborhood to fly down to Florida and commit the robbery for him. The plan was, in order to get the elderly lady to open her front door to a stranger, he was to pose as a flower delivery man. Once the elderly lady unlocked the door, he would then push his way into her home, steal her ring, and flee down the street, where the baker would pick him up and they would make good their getaway. The baker picked up his co-perpetrator upon his arrival at Tampa International Airport. They then stopped at a local grocery store, where a pair of gloves, duct tape, and some flowers were purchased. They then proceeded to the elderly lady's neighborhood, where the baker dropped off his partner in crime, who then executed the plan effortlessly. After overpowering and restraining the frail 5'2", 118-pound, 78-year-old lady with duct tape, he collected the much-coveted diamond ring along with some additional jewelry, all of which was in plain view on top of her dresser in her bedroom. It was while he was in her bedroom that he noticed a safe in her bedroom closet. This elderly lady died that night as a result of the beating administered by the perpetrator in an attempt to extract from her the combination to the safe. What he did not know was even under the best circumstances she could never open that safe, and therefore kept no valuables stored inside it. These were vicious and brutal murders. However, it's also important to understand that these murders were motivated by greed. The exhibits used in my book's opening are meant to shock your sensibilities, as well as to demonstrate the extreme measures and various methods used to target the elderly for theft. The term elder abuse is used to describe many different types of abuse. According to a post on the website for the National Center on Elder Abuse, there are 7 different types of abuse. Recognizing and investigating the targeting of the elderly for theft, number 6 on that list, is the real world I lived and worked in as a criminal investigator for the state attorney. Hello, I'm Robert Max Clark, and I'm here to talk to you about the contents of my book, Fate Digest for Women Baby Boomers. FATE is the acronym I use for financially abusing the elderly. Fate is in fact the red-headed stepchild of the 7 elder categories. It seems no one wants to seriously acknowledge its existence, and only a few want to do anything about fate awareness. My experience in investigating the targeting of the elderly for theft inspired the writing of my soon-to-be published book titled Fate Digest for Women Baby Boomers, as well as the establishment of my blog site, fateawareness.com, and the establishment of my YouTube channel. The specific targeting of elderly men and women for theft is a huge and multi-layered, complex crime problem. Seniors lose over $36 billion to elderly financial abuse each year. Also consider approximately 36% of seniors are affected by financial abuse in any 5-year period. That is according to the TrueLink Financial Report on Elder Abuse 2015, which can be found at the World Wide Web, truelinkfinancial.com. Again, www.truelinkfinancial.com. The National Adult Protective Service Association's website identifies and lists 9 commonly reported forms of financial exploitation. These are in addition to the most horrific form of the elderly being targeted for theft, that being home invasion robberies that often result in the premeditated and unprovoked slaughter of the frail elderly victims within their own homes, a place they and their families perceived as their safe haven from the real world. I have given you 2 cases of home invasion robberies which I've described in the opening of this video, and there are hundreds of cases I have documented on my blog site, fateawareness.com. This crime problem directly affects the elderly, their families, and society as a whole. Unfortunately, despite these staggering numbers, all 3 of the aforementioned group of stakeholders, the elderly, their families, and our society as a whole, have done a poor and inadequate job of recognizing and dealing with these many forms of the targeting of the elderly for theft. These thefts are taking place due to all sorts of sophisticated criminal acts, perpetrated by not only common street criminals and or family members, but by an amazingly large amount of professionals and semi-professionals that populate all imaginable professions. These professionals are highly schooled in the craft of earning an elderly person's trust. To further complicate the problem, the perpetrators come from all walks of life. This professional and semi-professional criminal class that specifically attack the elderly is huge. They are also cunning and devious in the ways they violate the misplaced trust. This group have unfettered access to the elderly due to the everyday services they provide to the victims. They use and take advantage of this misplaced trust and unfettered access to the elderly community. More often than not, the theft is carried out in the form of many individual acts and carried out over an extended period of time. It is not until the elderly victim runs out of money that these surreptitious acts will rise to the surface and therefore be discovered. The group I'm describing here includes dishonest insurance agents, dishonest financial advisors, dishonest medical providers. The list goes on, which is, again, demonstrated by way of real criminal case examples that I used in both my book and on my blog. The federal, state, and local agencies and jurisdictions responsible for identifying and investigating fake cases are many. The communications and the lack of communications, the coordination and the lack of coordination of these agencies do in fact yet add another multiple number of layers of complexity to the problem of fate. Without getting too far astray here, please trust me when I say these agencies are not members of one big happy family that work and communicate as a team. Therefore, my approach, my immediate solution to the fate problem, is to take my message of prevention directly to you. By you, I'm talking about the female baby boomers. You are, in fact, the first line of defense for your mom and your dad. It has been my experience in my investigations that it was the daughter that more often than not I ended up dealing with during my investigation. And it was the daughter that stepped up to the plate concerning providing care and support for their victimized parents for the rest of their lives, even at the risk of their own physical, mental, and financial health. Like it or not, you are the gender that tenders, and that is a fact. Of the many stakeholders, you are the one that has the standing in your mom and dad's life to take immediate action. You can have that conversation and publish the results of that conversation in a legally documented final exit plan. A plan that mom and dad dictated themselves, and a plan done while they still had the legal mental capacity to do so. Better yet, think about this. You can first have that conversation with your life's partner and document your own final exit plan. Then share that plan, along with my book, with your parents. That would be a triple win, in my view. You have taken care of your own life's final exit while still young, strong, and in sound mind and body. You have relieved your children of having to deal with final exit time period without a plan in place. And you have led by example for your mom and dad, by you not asking or expecting them to do something that you have not bothered to do for yourself and your children. My message is a simple one. Prevent the theft from taking place. Minimize the opportunity by hardening the target. Crime prevention sounds simple enough, but it is not simple or easy. And therefore, this important job is not getting done. It is one of my goals to make the FATE acronym as recognizable as AARP or MAD. We have to first acknowledge that there is, in fact, a serious problem of the elderly being specifically targeted for theft. The True Link report is an alarm going off to warn not only of what is currently happening, but I think if we stop and take a moment and try to imagine if it is this bad currently, what will the onslaught of baby boomers entering their super senior years do to the frequency and quantity of crimes perpetrated on the elderly from here on forward, and at what cost? I'm of the opinion that all roads in life eventually lead to and end up with the infirmities of aging taking total control of our own lives away from even the best and the smartest of us. Stated another way, I believe when we examine the last 12 to 24 months of a person's lifespan, we see this ill-defined time period between life and death, a twilight zone for the lack of a better description. It is upon mom and dad entering this twilight zone that the worst and most serious changes in both physical and mental health take their costly toll. Their entrance into this time period is not so much dictated by their age as it is by their declining health conditions. It is because of this time period that we have to have a final exit plan in place. Having a written, legally sound plan in place can at least give mom and dad some control as to how the final period of their life plays out. A final exit plan that has provisions for someone of mom and dad's choosing to take control and manage their finances when they, in fact, enter the twilight zone. That type of a provision can make it harder for someone to take advantage of their weakened conditions and access their funds. Also, a provision is needed within the plan to make it clear just how and under what circumstances mom and dad want end-of-life care administered. These infirmities may not be preventable. However, there is some wiggle room available when it comes to how we recognize and plan for this decline in our ability to protect ourselves, our family, and our property. Failing to do this will be a contributing factor of the crime problem. In order to deal with this thief, we first have to acknowledge the poor health conditions brought on by the infirmities of aging is in fact awaiting for all of us as we near the end of our journey down life's highway. We need to plan for all those life-changing negative aspects. The first step is to educate all concerned of the dangers that could lay ahead. My book and blog's content can be your resource for that information. The next step is to have that much dreaded and often avoided conversation about the end of life. Again, the contents of my book and blog can serve as your conversation starter. My book acts as an icebreaker and is your justification for broaching this radioactive subject. The primary purpose of my writing this book is to educate you first on the dangers of mom and dad being targeted for victimization. I explain just how they are targeted and who it is that you have to be concerned about. Once you have that knowledge in your hand in the form of a book, you can then use the book's content as the icebreaker to start that much dreaded but necessary conversation about exactly what does mom and dad want done when they can no longer call their shots, and done by whom. The content of my book is your justification for broaching this radioactive subject. It can make the impossible possible. The information obtained from the conversation needs to be documented while mom and dad still have the mental capacity to do so. There is a section in my book that identifies the government's final exit plan. That plan is applied to those who lose capacity to care for and handle their own affairs and had not documented their own final exit plan. That government's plan is called court-appointed guardianship. If nothing I have written has convinced you to take the bull by the horn and have that conversation with mom and dad, the section on the government's final exit plan should seal the deal. I'll close this video with one last request. Please check back with my blog from time to time. I currently have a backlog of over 1,000 fake cases from around the world. As time permits, I'm logging these cases into my database and posting them on my blog.